My name is BSingh. Let's doing a presentation on market basket analysis for Data624. The last topic covered, and we'll get right into it. So what is market basket analysis? Essentially, it's a technique used to determine relationships between items in purchases or transactions, and we'll typically see it used by retailers to just tell you likelihoods of a product being purchased if another product or products are purchased. Essentially, if an item's in a customer's quote-unquote basket, how likely is another item to be purchased as well and added to that basket. It's typically used by retailers, and it aims to help them plan production, what inventory they want to house or add to their inventory. It can help them project revenue based on likelihood of things being purchased, and just optimizing their planning and production all around. When learning about this, first thing that came to mind honestly was Amazon, and it's an example I'll use later on to show how they prompted, and I'm sure everyone has seen it. Didn't know that's what it was called, but yeah, now it all makes sense. Alright, so yeah, how it works, it uses association rules, basically the data mines, it's data mining, reviewing past purchases, where each row is a transaction or a purchase, and each column is an individual item being purchased. In R, you can use the association rules package to calculate some metrics to determine how likely items are to be purchased together, and the more quote-unquote important relationships in the data. So the support is one of the first ones. Simple percentage of all the transactions containing A and B, divided by the total count of transactions in the data set. So confidence is then, if product A is in a cart, how likely will the customer also add product B to their cart? And that's just the frequency of A and B in the data set divided by the frequency of just A occurring. And lift is essentially the probability that buying product B increases if product A was already in the cart. And you'll see it's like X times more likely that product B will be purchased if A was in the cart versus if A wasn't in the cart. So, you'll have greater than 1 tells you that many times more likely it'll be purchased if A is in the cart. Equal to 1 is really no impact, and less than 1 is, the opposite, the negative, quote-unquote negative effect. This is essentially what I just explained, and I think I touched on this already, but within R, again, it's using transactional data, using read.transactions to pull it in, similar to read CSV, read Excel, how that goes. And it uses a pre-aria function, to calculate, as just mentioned, support, confidence, lift, and you'll be able to mine or pull out the association rules using inspect. So for presentation purposes, I'm using the data from homework 10. I know it was optional, but it was readily available. Didn't need to recreate the wheel, so just pulled out screenshots from that. It's about 10,000 rows of data representing grocery store purchases, and you'll see each row, as mentioned, is a purchase during that visit at the grocery store, and each column is an item that was purchased during that visit. So we'll just perform some basic market basket analysis on this. Pretty straightforward, I think, and but it gives good information. So yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, you just, it's just snippets of code. The output of the summary of the data shows you there's 9,835 purchases for 169 different items, and it'll give you the top 5 most frequent items, individualized when purchased by themselves, let's just say. Easy way to put it. So whole milk, other vegetables, rolls, buns, in that order. So the yogurt. So those are the top 5 most occurring items in the data set. And then we can see how and if they relate to each other. This is just, a frequency plot of, the top 25 items. Obviously you can see whole milk, as mentioned before, was 2,500 times it appears in the data set, and so on. Okay, so as I mentioned, you'll use that a priori function to determine the association. You can play with support and confidence. I have a support of 1% and confidence of 50%. You can change it to get more rules. Tune it to get less rules. In this case, just an example, there are 15 rules that were pulled using these measures, and we'll get into how to interpret it. So this is the top 10 rules based on, again, the support and confidence that I set, and we'll walk through it pretty quickly. So LHS, left hand side, or RHS, right hand side. So what this is saying is essentially citrus fruit and root vegetables, when purchased, other vegetables are, again, 3 times more likely to also be purchased. Again, its support is that citrus fruit, root vegetables, and other vegetables show up together, so 1% of the time, and the confidence, the 58% here, is saying that other vegetables is 58% to be more likely to be purchased when citrus fruit and root vegetables are purchased. So that's how you interpret it. Coverage, I know we didn't touch on this, but it essentially just tells you that if the rule if the rule is applicable to a large portion of the data set. So do these 3 items permeate across most of the data in the transaction. So that's what coverage is, and lift I mentioned, 3 times more likely. Count, again, just the total amount of times those 3 items show up together in a purchase together. So, and then we could go through it. It's the same thing, but it makes sense where these relationships, other vegetables and whole milk are within the top 10 on the right hand side, and being that they're the most frequent, it kind of makes sense. But this can help, again, just let the retailers know how to essentially plan when they have these items. So pretty straightforward. This is just a visual presentation of it. The color coding basically is your lift, and the support is basically the size of the bubbles. So again, this is just based on the top 10 lifts. This is the visual of showing the relationships between the items in the data set. So I think just pretty cool. Another example I can think of, we'll get into the Amazon, but when you're talking about bundling insurance, I know that's mentioned in Geico commercials, but they probably use this as well. So as I mentioned, you probably have seen this. I'm sure everyone has. So basically, when I go purchase a product, suggesting the next top 3 products that customers also buy, and prompts you, essentially you can add them to the cart, right? So happens a lot. I think, sometimes it works because you're like, oh, I forgot, I might need that too, right? So yeah, that's on the screenshot. You'll see, yeah, typically what I see for every item that I am browsing through. So it's a prime example of it. Again, as I mentioned, it just helps them in determining their product mix. They can, you know, offer promotions if an item's purchased. Oh, also add XYZ, for 20% off, whatever. And these reports exist actually from Amazon, where you can get a download, and it gives you these association rules essentially by their product numbers. And if you're a seller on Amazon, it basically has one product, and then you realize, looking at the data, that another product's purchased 30% of the time. It's also purchased it, but you don't have it in your inventory. Why not go ahead and add it, right? To drive more sales. So yeah, it's super useful. I didn't even know that existed out there, so it's constantly being updated. The data set, it's out there publicly. As a buyer or seller, I believe you can download it. So yeah, just references. It touches on how Amazon basically uses their product numbers and the percentages of likelihood to say, here's your top 3 items that are usually purchased with this. So interesting reads. If anyone wanted to take a look,